I'm always looking for the perfect one-pot meal, aren't you? So what time is it? It's soup time. Please join me today as I prepare my soupsational soups.
Jazzy, you're gonna be healthy with the Jazzy vegetarian. Jazzy, so snazzy. We're gonna cook something healthy and light. Jazzy, so snazzy.
So join me in the kitchen right now.
We're gonna cook something healthy and light. That's right.
Today I'll feature 4 of my very favorite superstar soup recipes. We're going to begin with winter warming soup, which makes the perfect meal on a chilly night. And then next up, my creamy tasting broccoli soup. Quick to prepare and no cream required. When the temperature is rising and soup is on your mind, my chilled green goddess summer soup fits the bill. And last up, soup with a twist. Penne and lettuce soup whips up in a flash. So let's get our soup on. I absolutely love soup. And if you love soup, this is the show for you. When I was putting together the itinerary for today's show, I had lists and lists and lists of soups, hundreds of soups. And I really pared it down to my 4 favorites, which I'm so excited to share with you right now. Now, this winter warming soup is really one of my classics. I'm going to start off with celery. My mother, my grandmother always used celery in their soups. Start with 6 stalks of celery. I'm just going to slice them up, kind of rough chop them. This is a very rustic soup. On a cold winter night, I often say to my husband, "You want soup?" He says, "Oh, yeah, I do." And he knows that this is the soup that I'm going to make. There we go. And we're just going to put everything into our soup pot. That's what's so easy about this. This is truly a one-pot meal. Next, I'm going to chop 1 sweet onion. Actually, before I do this, let's get this going. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of vegetable broth with my celery, and that's what I'm going to saute it in. And that vegetable broth is really going to infuse inside the celery and just start flavoring it as I continue to layer all the flavors in this soup. I like to keep a carton of vegetable broth in my cupboard at all times because it really cuts down time in a recipe like this. Nobody's going to know that it's not homemade totally from scratch. Just going to put the top on. So I'm going to be sauteing at about a medium heat here. All right, we're just going to rough chop it. Everything kind of rough chopped in this recipe. Excellent. Now let's get our sweet onion in there for a little bit of sweetness. When you have soup, you want just a little bit of a sweet taste. All right, I'm going to put in just a little bit more vegetable broth. I've used about a half a cup of vegetable broth to saute my celery and my onions in. Now I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of Italian herbs. I may add a little more later. I'm just going to put the top on, and we're going to let that saute for about 6 to 8 minutes. And once it cooks down, we're going to put the rest of our winter warming soup together. I love it. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And I like to add some organic tamari at this point. And it's going to start giving us a nice caramel color to those onions. So let's put these next components in. We've got our carrots, 5 carrots peeled and chopped. 2 medium sweet potatoes, and I've peeled them and just rough chopped them. I also have red potatoes. I've peeled them, I've chopped them. 5 medium red potatoes go into this soup. You can use russets or Yukon Gold if you want. And then mushrooms. I love mushrooms. And I have sliced 6 cremini mushrooms. Dump them right in. Well, kind of dump them. There we go. Now at this point, I'm going to add some more vegetable broth. Altogether, I'm going to add 8 cups of vegetable broth into this soup. Give it a little toss. Now for a pop of green, a pop of color. I have cleaned and trimmed about 2 cups of green beans. They also add a lot of nice texture and great flavor in this soup. And last but not least, 15 ounces, 1 can of white beans. Any kind you like. Just make sure to drain them and rinse them first. I need a little more color, a little more flavor, so I'm going to add just a few more of those tasty Italian herbs. About another teaspoon. Beautiful. So I'm just going to use a little water. Right to the top of the veggies is where you want that water. Just a touch of salt, I'll taste it later, and just a pop of pepper. Oh, by the way, this recipe is in my cookbook. It's one of my very favorites. All right, we're ready to go with our winter warming soup. I'm going to turn that up to about a medium heat, let it come back to a simmer, and then I'm going to simmer it for about 50 minutes or so. Next up, I've got something a little bit different. It's a summertime soup. Are you intrigued? Yep, let's prepare it now. There's nothing more refreshing on a really hot summer day than a nice chilled soup. So right now I'm going to prepare my Green Goddess summer soup. Now it's a very creamy tasting soup, but I'm not going to use cream. What I'm using in place of the cream is 14 to 16 ounces of soft, regular tofu. You can use silken tofu as well. I've drained it very well. Look at how much liquid drained out of that tofu. Now, if I didn't drain the tofu, that liquid would go into the soup and make it runny. So the ease and the beauty of this soup is you just throw everything into the blender. I really love that. Now we're going to use about a third of a sweet onion, and that's going to give a great base of flavor to this soup. You definitely do want to use sweet onion in this soup. It gives it a little sweetness. Just rough chop it, throw it all in there. And next up, unflavored non-dairy milk. I'm not going to put it all in yet. And I'm going to add 1/3 cup of parsley. Flat leaf parsley is best. And then one of my very favorite herbs to grow in the summertime, all summer long on my deck, is basil. Fresh basil. I love growing it out on my deck all summer long. It's my very favorite herb to cook with. It's really great to just pick a couple of leaves off and put it in your pastas and soups and stews and salads. I love making a basil and tomato salad. You just take tomatoes and chop up some basil, sprinkle it over the top of the tomatoes. A fabulous summer salad. So the next time you're thinking about growing some fresh herbs or picking some up at your farm market, think about basil. It's really versatile. It's really delicious. I just love it. And I'm going to use about 4 to 6 fresh basil leaves. And then next, a little bit of garlic. Now, if you don't like the taste of raw garlic, you really can just leave it out of this soup, but I love garlic, so I'm going to put a whole clove in there. And then a little bit of cayenne pepper, using about 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then for just a little bit of sweet, I use 2 teaspoons of brown sugar. And then 1 teaspoon of red wine vinegar. I'm going to use a little bit of fresh lemon. You definitely do need to use fresh lemon in this. Don't use the bottled variety. I'm just adding 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon. You don't really have to measure it perfectly. There we go, 1 teaspoon. Now, for just a little bit of sodium, I am going to add 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Now you're asking, what is the Green Goddess part of this Green Goddess summer soup? And it's avocado. Now, this is kind of soft. You don't want it to be mushy. You don't want it to be brown on the inside. But you do want it to be nice and ripe for this recipe. That is perfect. I love avocados. And a ripe avocado makes me happy. So what can I say? And here's a little tip about avocados. If you're putting them in something like this where you're not going to be slicing them, you could just turn the skin wrong side out and scrape it right in there. Anything that saves steps in the kitchen but still makes food absolutely jazzalicious is what I like to do. There, I've got everything together. Let me just wash off my hands. So what's going to happen is we're going to blend this all together until it's nice and smooth and creamy. Then we're going to put it into the refrigerator for up to 6 hours. So let's start it. Okay, that's coming along. I'm going to add a little bit more of my non-flavored, non-dairy milk. I think we're going to need a little bit of oil, just a touch. So I'm just going to put 1 teaspoon in there. I think that's about all we're going to need. Let's get it going again. Isn't that beautiful? That is beautiful. Isn't that pretty? And I got 2 green soups for you today. I've got this one, and next up, one of my luncheon favorites. It's my creamy broccoli soup. So stick around for that. I'm gonna put this into the refrigerator.
We're gonna make some creamy broccoli soup. Broccoli soup.
Creamy broccoli soup. No cream required. I came up with a soup one day when I had some broccoli in the refrigerator. I wanted to make a quick lunch for myself and my husband, and I've been making it for lunch ever since. But it's also wonderful to serve at a first course for an elegant dinner party. So what I've started off with is just 6 cups of broccoli florets. And we're going to steam the broccoli just until it's a little beyond crisp tender. And I've got my steamer basket in here, a little bit of water underneath. So let me just put the broccoli in there now. Just toss it all in. That is it. Put the top on, let it steam for about 8 minutes, and then we're going to be ready to make our soup creamy. I smell that broccoli cooking. I'm going to move quickly here. Oh, look at the color of that. Isn't that pretty? So, let's get the broccoli in here. Now we're working with something that's hot. And that's why you want to make sure that the rest of the ingredients that you're adding to this are cold. Put a little bit of the broccoli in there. And then I have 2 cups of very cold non-dairy milk. I'm going to add that non-dairy milk just a little bit at a time. That's going to help to cool down that broccoli. So, toss it all in. All right, get the rest of it in there. A little bit more of that non-dairy milk. Not going to put it all in. We're going to see how we go with it. Now for flavor, I'm going to add a little bit of organic tamari. Just about 1 teaspoon is what we're going to start with. And then just a dash of cayenne. You don't want too much in this soup. And then I have 1 clove of garlic that I've chopped. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. To give it a real nice taste, I'm going to use some all-purpose seasoning. Find an all-purpose seasoning that you and your family enjoy. Go to your supermarket or your health food store, find a couple of different kinds of all-purpose seasoning, taste them all, do a little taste test with your family. Then, when you have your recipes, you can spice them up with your all-purpose seasoning, and that's going to give a nice flavor that your family and your friends all love. So that's a little jazzy tip. Toss that all right in. I think that's everything for now. Now we're just going to whip it up. Now you do want to leave air at the top of your blender. We have hot ingredients in here, so be very careful with it. We're going to put it on a low speed like I'm doing here. That's it. Perfect. And look at that beautiful green color. Very different kind of green color. Our green goddess soup is a very summery green. This is a very beautiful, almost a jewel green color. Smells so good too. All right, let's take it over to our pot. Because how we're going to finish this up is we're going to heat it up just to a simmer. You don't want to bring it to a boil.
Soup, soup, soup.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
We're gonna have some jazzy, delicious soup.
All right, I'm going to put my top on, put my heat on medium-low. You're going to watch this closely, stir it as it goes. And while this is heating up, I've got a really quick one for you. My penne and lettuce soup. That's soup with a twist, and it whips up in a flash. Penne and lettuce soup. Bet you never heard of that before. Well, I hadn't either until I made it for myself a while back. I wanted to make a fabulous midday soup, so I thought, now you use baby spinach in soup. Why couldn't you use romaine lettuce? It almost ends up being like little lettuce noodles. I'm going to show you how it works. But let's just start the soup going. It could not be easier, and I mean that for a fact. All you do is take 32 ounces or 4 cups of veggie broth, pour it into a medium soup pot, just like that, and turn it on. That's the whole thing. Pretty easy so far, right? Cover it up. Do watch it, though. Make sure you don't boil it over. And then we'll get the rest of our ingredients together. So our little kind of romaine soup noodles. Just want to take your large leaves of romaine lettuce. Romaine lettuce is very hardy. It's got a nice thick texture to it. It really holds up well in this soup. And we're only going to cook it for about 1 minute on the back end. And you just want to do chiffonade slices. Just roll the leaves up like I have here and just cut them across. And that's what's going to make our little romaine style noodles. Fine and dandy. I'm using about 2 or 3 cups of romaine in this soup. I'll just set that aside. So what are we going to use instead of meat in this soup? Well, I'm using smoked tofu. If you haven't tried that before, it's available in most supermarkets these days. You want to always buy your tofu organic. And we're just going to cube it up, just like you would meat or chicken. This has a really nice texture. Almost makes it a little bit like that Japanese soup or the Chinese soup you get when you go to a restaurant. But you're making it yourself in under 20 minutes. I love it. Nice little cubes there. That's the whole thing. I've got about 4 ounces of smoked tofu here today. Now, if your grocer doesn't carry smoked tofu, you can use extra firm or firm regular tofu. All you do is cut it into cubes, just like I've done here. Put it in a little bowl. Add about a half teaspoon of tamari. Toss it about, and while everything else is being prepared for the soup, just let it marinate in the tamari for about 10 minutes, and that's going to flavor your tofu really, really nicely. And that's a great tip. Here, my broth boiling. Oh, yeah. Now we're ready to add our pasta. What I'm using is 1 cup of whole wheat penne. You can use any kind of whole grain pasta that you like, but I love the penne. Holds up really well in this soup. Just toss it right in there. Then we're going to flavor it a little bit. This is something a little different. We're going to use turmeric. Going to give this soup a really beautiful color and a really delicate flavor. Half a teaspoon of ground turmeric. Stir it about a little bit. Now, the pasta is going to cook up in about 8 minutes. So we're going to let it go for about 4 minutes. Then we're going to add our smoked tofu. Let that go for about another 3 minutes. And then the last 1 minute, we're going to add our lettuce. And then it's penne and lettuce soup. So let's get that going. Now we're going to add our smoked tofu. Let me use this. We just want to warm the tofu through, otherwise it's really going to break up. Now let's turn the heat back up. Once it comes back up to a simmer, we're going to add our lettuce in just at the last minute. Now it's time to put in the lettuce into our penne and lettuce soup. As you can see, I've got all my soups here ready to dish up for you. Just going to toss that right in. It's going to kind of serve as some secondary noodles in this soup. Let me give it a toss. Look how pretty that is. I'm going to turn that heat up for just about 1 minute. Now here's all my fabulous soups.
And soup, I'm having soup. Come on, let's have some soup today. Just a delicious way. Some soup today.
Well, you've got to admit, this is absolutely soup-sational. Look at these beautiful soups. What a beautiful rainbow of colors. So I've got to start with my chilled soup. You can add a little bit of non-dairy milk to the top of it right before you serve it, almost like you would cream. That's just going to dress it up really nicely. Put that right over the top there. Fantastic. Now I get to taste it. Look at that. Look at the color that has. That makes me happy. Oh my goodness. It's out of this world. You got that avocado, and you can just taste that avocado a little bit, but you can't quite tell what it is. In other words, you don't think that it's avocado soup. A little bit of that onion, pop of that garlic, that cayenne, all the different things, a little bit of that lemon. Just such a refreshing soup for a 90-degree summer day. I absolutely love it. And then next, look at this. Isn't that pretty? Penne and lettuce soup. And I'm just going to take a little bite there. Oh, yeah. I guarantee you that's a taste you have not tasted before. And it's just so simple. You taste some spice. You've got real flavor going on there. Beautiful smoked tofu, the penne, and the lettuce that kind of makes those little lettuce noodles. It's really good. Now let's take a look at our broccoli soup. Isn't that pretty? Take a little bite. Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh, I absolutely love that. It's a really satisfying, beautiful soup. Great for lunch, perfect for a first course. This, of course, is the star of the show today. It is my winter warming soup, and I want to bring this soup front and center. Of course, I always want to get every single vegetable in every single bite, but I can't do that. That is fantastic. It's just like a soup Grandma used to make. It's so hearty. It's really delicious. All those flavors melt together in this soup, and I really do mean melt together. And that sweet potato, that's the little jazzy surprise. Got to use that sweet potato. That is so good. I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today. And when soup's on in your kitchen, I hope that you'll give the soupsational recipes from today's show a try. So until next time, be happy, be healthy, and be well from the Jazzy Vegetarian.
Visit our website at jazzyvegetarian.com to connect with Laura, see videos, find your favorite recipes, and more. Follow Laura on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Laura Theodore's Jazzy Vegetarian Classics features recipes from this series, and it's available for $26.95. Jazzy Vegetarian, a collection of favorite recipes, is available for $24.95. A set of both cookbooks is available for $44.95. For information or to order, visit jazzyvegetarian.com.
Organic love, 100% natural. Yes, it is now. Organic love. I've got no additives or no preservatives. It's real intuitive. It's downright primitive. Organic love is 100% natural. Yes, it is now.